On 29th March 2001, during a storm in the Baltic Sea measuring 9 on the Beaufort scale, a sugar freighter, Tern, and an oil tanker Baltic carrier collided at the boundary between the German-Danish territorial waters. The Tern had veered off course and rammed the Baltic carrier, ripping open cargo tank number 6 on the starboard side. As a result, the entire contents of the tank, approximately 2,700 tons, were released into the sea. The Danish Coast Guards could not respond immediately to the emergency due to bad weather conditions. Once the weather conditions improved, Danish, Swedish and German vessels took to sea to spot slicks and recover the oil. On 29th March, the oil slicks began to beach at Grønsund and hit the islands in the vicinity, affecting a 50-kilometer stretch of coastline. On 30th March, the Danish Civil Defense Corps was on the scene and set up a command post in the village of Tubekobben. 8 recovery sites were set up, with a workforce of about 210 responders who carried out the cleanup operation. During the entire operation, the ship's owner and staff cooperated completely with the local authorities. On 1st April, 940 tons of oil was recovered at sea with the help of the footage supplied by airborne and satellite-based surveillance. On 2nd April, 2 vessels lightened the Baltic carrier and towed her to a repair yard. After the wind dropped to a force 4 southwesterly, the wind pushed the oil slicks towards the Danish islands of Falster and Mon. An EC task force was mobilized and sent to the scene. From 1st to 5th April, the experts identified the polluted areas and drew up a list of response techniques. The Danish Civil Defense opted for heavy-duty machinery and equipment requisitioned from local companies and in particular from construction companies. Substantial quantities of oil, approximately 2,000 tons, were recovered by the end of day 3, but the physical impact on the upper foreshores and on the banks was considerable, partly due to the fact that many of the banks were in the high zone tide and therefore very sensitive. Approximately 50 kilometers of coastline had been polluted, and in some areas the slicks were very thick. The areas in question were marshlands and pebble beaches. Using a bulldozer and lorry, a layer of polluted pebbles had to be removed and transferred to a disused quarry for washing with water and surfactant and returned to the original beach. Equipment deployed in the marshlands had been tricky and lengthy. The marshlands were highly sensitive habitats, classified as nature reserves and bird sanctuaries. Due to the oil slick, approximately 2,500 birds died. After removing the bulk of the oil and 3,950 tons of polluted waste, the Civil Defense Corps left the area on April 10th. The local and regional authorities took over and collected a further 6,800 tons. The claims against the tanker owners were estimated at $300 million, which included cost of cleanup operations, deployment of equipment, damage to coastline, task force experts' fees, cost of towing the vessel to safety, cost of oil transfer from the Baltic carrier. The local authorities further claimed for the losses to the marine life, sensitive habitats, nature reserves and bird sanctuary, and collection and disposal of polluted waste. The tanker owner's condition worsened as the Danish Coast Guards could not respond to the emergency immediately. The environmental deterioration could have been lessened if the authorities had opted to pump the oil as it was not in the water for long, in view of the fact that weather conditions at the time were favorable for the onshore response phase.